Let's bring in Shauna, who's been Lloyd, who's been listening along with us. No surprise what we heard, Shauna. We knew that they would be talking about that video, which very much is going to be a center subject here during this trial. Painting Kyle, now 18, as an active shooter and a killer, versus what we're going to hear from the other side soon, and that is that he's a hometown hero that was just protecting local businesses and the people there on the streets of his hometown. That's actually the first time we're seeing some sort of expression, his lawyer talking to him and smiling and actually engaging a little bit of a conversation. But Shauna, as you listened to the first part of opening statements there, what stands out to you?
The things that I think that really stood out about that opening were, first and foremost, he did a very good job of separating him from everyone else, in the sense that everyone was experiencing very similar feelings. They were protecting their property, their homes, and yet there were no other acts of violence. So I think that, that's important. I think that that creates an interesting foil on which the jury is going to always think of his actions, right? Because we have other people that were there to protect as well, yet there wasn't another shooting. So I think that that was interesting. I think the infrared camera is definitely going to be interesting to see, because although you won't be able to hear what anyone's saying, you'll be able to see, the motion, the direction. You'll actually be able to see what they were doing. How close were they? That kind of information that you might not have otherwise seen, because some of the videos you lose him in your sight of vision. So it'll be very interesting to see that as well.
So then, of course, we're going to, as we get ready to hear the other side, and a completely different picture of Kyle. I was looking at how they might play into this issue of self-defense. And apparently, since we're talking about the video, Shauna, that there was also video taken earlier that night that does show Rittenhouse offering medical assistance to protesters and sort of milling around with other people, that had been trying to protect property and other businesses. Do you think that that is maybe a key, or I don't know if it's a key, but a main part of what his lawyers will say when trying to defend him and saying, look, this was self-defense. Here he is helping other people, giving medical attention to other people. You've got the story all wrong here.
Absolutely. I think you're definitely going to see this play into what state of mind he went there for, what his purpose was, why he was there. You're going to see the defense try to fill in those gaps for the jury, because they want to portray him as someone that was there to offer assistance, that he was there just to protect that particular business, and that he was only doing things that were helpful for the particular community. You're going to see them address the fact that he wasn't, hostile. He was offering help. He was behaving in a very normal manner towards other people. So that will absolutely be highlighted by the defense.
Why do you think it's so important that we pay attention to this trial in full, Shauna?
I think it's important because I think everything from the actions themselves unto conclusion of a trial is all a part of this justice system, where we can see the way things work, why they work, and where they're failing. So I think it's very important that people actually see the process, because sometimes at the end of a verdict, it may be a verdict that the general population may not be happy with. However, the jurors have actually seen everything from start to finish and may come to a different conclusion. So being able to watch these trials, I think, gives a lot more information to the general public about what actually happens during trial, the consequences of actions, how intent plays into these crimes, how self-defense plays into these crimes, how these things are utilized in these types of moments.
One thing I noticed, I don't know if you noticed this as well, but the judge was sitting there up on the bench flipping through his phone. It was pretty clear that he didn't have, eyes on this attorney the whole entire time. He kind of was going about his business there, going through whatever it was on his phone. Did that Did you notice that? Does that bother you? Does the judge, you know, clearly he might be able to multitask, but you would think that the stakes are so high with regard to this trial. I mean, we're talking about murders that were tied to one of the biggest stories that rocked our country, rocked the world in the past year and a half, and that was the death of George Floyd. And then you had this scenario where a white police officer, you know, shoots another young black man in the back 7 times, and we see protests and looting that you know is spurred in this small Midwestern town. I guess I just sort of expected the judge to be a little bit more engaged.
Yeah, I think that the judge always sets the demeanor of the courtroom, and more particularly for the jury. I mean, listen, everyone has a different role in the trial, so the juror is going to be the finders of fact. So although the opening statement, it's really for the jury because they're making determinations about fact. The judge really is more of an officiant and making sure that everyone plays within the rules, that all letter of the law is followed. You know, so there is a portion of this that, you know, whether or not he's paying as close attention, he may not need to, but I definitely think it does influence the feelings of the jury that he's sitting before, because they're taking their clues from him because it is his courtroom. But this is definitely openings, closings. Those are definitely mostly for the jury because those are really the roadmap of what they're planning to show them, right? Your opening is where you give them a brief overview of what your case is going to present to them, the facts that they'll see, and what you're going to prove. So that's really going to be very much geared towards that jury.
You know, it's interesting just talking about the jury. I mean, this isn't the only trial that's gaining national attention right now. I mean, the jury selection is ongoing right now in the trial of those 3 white men accused of chasing down and killing Ahmaud Arbery that we have been following clearly for months on end as well. Walk us through the importance of that case as well, and just the fact that these 2 high-profile cases, similar scenarios, are going on right now.
I think that speaks to just the broader strokes of what's happening in society. These events are coming to light. They are going to trial as opposed to, you know, being settled prior to trial. So we're seeing a lot more of it. I think the community at large is more engaged in the justice system than they have been in the past. And a big part of that, and a big part of our civic obligation, is really jury's duty. Most people think of it as something that's very, you know, arduous and it's time consuming, and I don't really want to do it. But the truth is that when we have an incident that has risen to this level, what you are looking for are your peers to look around and judge you. Your peers are to be there to make that determination. And that's why jury selection and jury duty is so important, because when you're talking about something of this magnitude, it's really a small snapshot of whatever that particular community is, and they should have an active participation in this particular type of trial, in any trial, really, because they are the finder of fact and they reflect the general consciousness.
Something else, too, that we've been talking clearly a lot about Kyle and the attorneys in the courtroom and what's happening right now. But let's just go back, you know, for a moment to talk about what initially happened. And that was back when the police officer, that white Kenosha police officer, Rustin Shesky, responded to this call that happened back on August 23rd, 2020, saying, or the call was about a domestic incident at a child's birthday party. Now we're remembering the video and that we had from the police cameras. And he shot, as we mentioned, Rustin did 7 times from behind while getting into that SUV where the children were sitting in the back seat. And then Blake was found to be armed with a knife. And then, so that was the video that actually went viral. Social media, you know, also capturing Rittenhouse's movements, you know, that night. How much are we going to go back and to the very beginning? And will that video and that instance, how will that fold into all of this as we look at how this case started to where we are right now?
You know, it's interesting. A lot of that, in my opinion, will not typically be highlighted, because when it comes to this particular trial, and especially when you're talking about self-defense, although there may be all of these social feelings that are happening surrounding that, really what they're looking at is how he felt in that moment. Did he actually believe that he was in danger? Did the person that he shot, did he actually pose an imminent threat to his self? Did he really believe that he was about to encounter someone that would harm him or create grave bodily harm? So a lot of this is really going to be focused on him and the other individual and how he saw him as a threat. Why was he a threat? Why did he think that this person was going to create this level of bodily harm? So although the circumstances by which everyone was there is going to play a bit of a part, because it's going to set the stage, it's not really the largest focal point of this particular trial because of the nature of self-defense.
All right, we'll talk more about the charges that Rittenhouse faces, and also the possible sentences after a quick break. Court has taken a short rest. So are we, as we just hit for a commercial. Shauna, stay with us. We'll continue our conversation as we continue to follow the trial of Kyle Rittenhouse.
Hi everyone, George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.